Good morning. I'm just taking care of a little business this morning in the studio. I've been experimenting a little bit with some mugs, and this right here. This is the first swirly mug I've ever thrown. I've seen Joe Chirico do it, and the young man at Old Forge does it. Well, a lot of people make swirly mugs. I didn't quite get the hang of I had to do it twice. You know, you have to put one finger in between these fingers and whoop, go up. And I think I went up, but I didn't do the whoop part, and so mine isn't as good as theirs, but it is kind of swirly. So squirrely, you say? It's okay. It's also squirrely. So anyway, that's my attempt. And I'm gonna, this got dry overnight. I didn't cover it, so I'm gonna put my little stamp on the bottom here if I can dampen this. So what I do is these things, when they're a little bit too dry, I just put a little dot of water on the back side of it, and I take some kind of plastic wrap, Glad wrap or whatever it's called, and I put it over that spot. And I have a little stamp here that has my, let me get it right side up, it has my brand, I guess you would call it, right there. And so I get it wet so it'll slide on this. Since this pot is dry, I'm having to be very careful not to crack it as I press. And getting the stamp wet causes it to be able to, you know, as it sinks into the clay, it isn't going to sink very far because it's too dry, but as it sinks into the clay, the saran wrap kind of goes with it instead of resisting it too much. There. So that was my beautiful brand. Okay, little broken arrow with the W, and that's the letter of my last name. And so when I pull the plastic wrap off of it, well, the plastic wrap also keeps the stamp from pulling any chunks of clay off. So I'm ready to just put that on the shelf now. I believe this is to put on your stove, and you can put your spoon across it like that so it doesn't roll away, or you can do it like that. So anyway, that one's ready to fire, to bisque fire anyway. And on this guy, I'm gonna put a handle on him. There are my handles. I threw them and then I cut them off and just lay them on a piece of wet newspaper that's not wet anymore. And then I'll find a place to stick it on here, one of them. Gotta make a choice. That's a pretty big cup, actually, or mug, actually. It's fairly large, so I'll put a beefy handle on it. Some of these, you know, they're hand thrown, they're not all the same size, but they're close. This one seems to be the beefiest one, so I'll probably put that one on there. How do I figure out how long my handles need to be? Well, it's very scientific. I have this paintbrush, and from the bottom of the ferrule to the bottom of the brush is about how long I need my handles to be, at least that long. That is my minimum when I'm cutting and doing stuff. So so what I'll do is I'll take this and check out the end of it. And the end is pretty messy, right? The end of it doesn't look too good. So I'll take I'll take a knife. Now this, so to determine whether or not I'm going to cut this at an angle this way or So I might want to cut it this way with a slight angle, or this way with an angle, or straight off. So let's see how this looks, how this is gonna go on here. So this handle is gonna go pretty straight on this mug. I mean, the face to face is going to be pretty straight on each side. So I'm gonna cut it off straight. But first I'm going to fix it a little bit because it's kind of crooked. Okay. That's pretty passable. Maybe I'll turn it over and mash it a little bit more there. All right, so now, and we don't want it to be hulking because this mug, even though it's kind of large, it's not real heavy. So I'm just gonna cut it off straight across right there. And I'll probably use this little part for something here in a minute. So I've got it straight, sort of. It's not very straight. Okay, and then I need to scratch up one side here on this. So this is where I'm gonna put it. Hope you can see what I'm doing. So I'm just using my little scratchy tool. It's got wires coming out of it. It's pretty cool. And then I'll scratch up a place down here. I usually just eyeball the whether or not that's straight. And you usually can get it pretty straight just eyeballing it. Okay, so now I'm gonna scratch this up. And since I'm doing a round thing, I'm gonna sort of I'm going to sort of mash this in the middle, and I'm not gonna create a round thing. I'm just gonna soften this up in the middle right there so that it will conform. I need some conformity. Then I'm gonna take some slip and put on here, and put on here and there and there. And we'll take care of this in a minute because we got to figure out how far down that's gonna go. So then, let me see if I got you on. Just gonna put my fingers behind it and just stick it on, and let me turn this way. Whoa. And then I'm just gonna sort of jiggle it a little bit just to wiggle it enough to make a good connection. So then that would make a hulking huge handle, wouldn't it? So we could do probably at least a ½ inch off of there. And sometimes I take off more than ½ inch. So to take off, well, let me cover that up. To take off the bottom, I've got this little round sort of cookie cutter looking deal, and I like the bottom of my handles to be round. So I'm just going to decide that's going to be about a ½ inch up, and I'm just going to cut it at a little bit of an angle so that, see, let's see if you can see that. If you can see that, it's the angle, there's sort of a bevel on this side of it. So let's see what we look like now. Oh, that's gonna be perfect. Yes, okay, so let's scratch that up now, and it'll get mashed down flat. Nothing's gonna stick out, so don't freak out on me. All right. So we put a little bit of slip on there. We put that on there. And I haven't mashed it down yet. I'm just gonna have to take a look at it before I get it real solid in place. There's another piece of scrap that I can use in a minute. Dip it in water to keep it wet. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good sized handle. I'm gonna put my hand down. Let me get this down here. I'm gonna put my hand on the inside and then push this towards the body of the mug. And now I'm going to rinse my brush. Well, I might not rinse it too much. Maybe I'll just flatten it out a little bit. With slip on it, I still have slip on this brush, a little bit. So we're just going to kind of tidy up the little connection here. And I see something there that I don't care for, which is just a little blob of stuff. I like that part to look pretty neat because that's, you know, that's what people see when they look at a mug. They're looking down in it, they're looking at the handle, and they're looking at the connection where the handle is connected. You know, if you have fingernails, if you've got those big long fingernails, if you're a lady, well, or if you're a man, if you have big fingernails, you're not gonna do too well doing this kind of stuff because your fingernails have got to go. There we go. Now, I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to push this up a little. I want that to have a little bit of deliberate, and I'll probably prop it up. Here's my profile. And I've got my little sponge in the shape of a dolphin holding it up. And I'm going to take a shopping bag, just a plastic shopping bag. It came from someplace you're probably familiar with. Right? Because everybody's familiar with that. Most of them have holes in the bottom anyway. And so I check on them frequently because I'm here. And if I didn't want this to dry out at all, I would use a different kind of bag. But I want this to dry, but slowly. And we are in a swamp, so nothing around here stays dry or dries very fast. So we'll just leave that. And since this doesn't have any parts on it, I can just set this back on the bat and it'll just dry fine without cracking and all that. So, all right, so this was the next mug. I'm gonna get that and go over to the wheel and take care of that. You might be wondering why I leave my mugs on the bat to put the handles on. And there's a real good reason for that. When my mugs are, well, for one thing, I like for them to have that really smooth bottom when they dry on the bat, and by the time they let go of the bat, they are too dry to put the handle on. Another reason is because if I'm handling this mug with my hands while I'm putting the handle on, it's so easy to knock it out around because it's still pretty wet now. It's just pretty firm, leather hard right now, and I don't want to knock it out around. And while I'm shoving, getting the handle ready and shoving it on there, it's so easy to do that. So this one is going to have, I'm going to angle the cutoff on this just a little bit, and you'll see here in a second. Because of that angle that it's going to meet the mug with, I'm gonna do an angle like that. Then I'm gonna scruff it up a little, take out more in the middle so that it conforms to the shape of the mug. It's round, not flat like this is. So I've got it messed up right here in the middle more than any place else. So I'm just going to pick a place right here scruff that up and get a zoop. Draw an imaginary line down there so you can kind of get that in the right place. So then, same procedure. We're gonna get some slip on it. This slip is kind of thin because I emptied my water and got new water, and it takes several sessions before it gets real soupy. Okay, so see, this is going to attach the handle at a different angle. It's going to kind of go up as it. So we're going to scoot it back and forth just a little bit, always reinforcing it with your other hand. Okay, we'll let that sit there for a minute and figure out how long. Now I want this to kind of go up, so I'm going to hold that down while I bend that up. And then it's a little long, so we're going to cut that off about 1/2 inch like we did the other one. And that's going to go right there. So let's scruff it up a little. Put a little slip on it. And make sure that this is kind of round and not no little goofball things are hanging off of it. Now, it's important to look at your handle from all angles and make sure that you have it straight up and down. Unless for some reason you're deliberately making it. Let's see, let's get this higher there. Unless for some reason you're making your handle deliberately not straight. And always on my handles, I make sure for the fact that when you wash a mug or a glass or like a tumbler type thing or anything, you want the handle not to stick up above the rim, because if you do make it higher than the rim, I mean, there are situations where you're making something just real elaborate and decorative, and that means that whoever's washing dishes is going to be extra careful with that. But if you're just making everyday mugs, you wash them, or you take them out of the dishwasher and you set them upside down to drain, or you put them in the cabinet, or they're upside down in the rack in the dishwasher. That if that handle is sticking up too high or higher than the other part, at my house anyway, it's in danger of getting broken. So I like to make my handles where the top of this is no higher than the rim of the mug. And that seems to work out pretty well. Don't have too many. In fact, I've never had a handle break off, so at my house anyway.